Overeaters Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength, and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for members. We're self-supporting through our own contributions, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organisation, political movement, ideology, or religious doctrine, and we take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviours, and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffer. So how our meeting works. At this meeting, we follow a rotating format. On the second week of the month, which is today, we have a recovered OA speaker who will be sharing on the topic of their choosing. We'll then be followed by a question and answer segment for about 15 minutes where fellows are welcome to ask questions of the speaker on their topic. So this meeting is being recorded by audio only, and it will be through the duration of the meeting. You'll see that at the top of your screen. The Q&A section is also being recorded. So if you have a question, please post this into the chat to Georgina, and they will ask the questions anonymously on your behalf. You'll not be able to do this audibly yourself. That's the only way you can ask questions. So that is the end of my bit, I believe. So today we have Audrey, who's come all the way from Ireland, who will be sharing on the topic of we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. And Audrey, it's over to you.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for your service. And yeah, thanks, Brona, for asking me to be of service. We just need to connect and allow me higher power just to come in and speak through me. So yeah, my name is Audrey. I'm a grateful, recovered, compulsive overeater. And I'm from Dublin, living in County Meath in Ireland. And I'm so grateful to be able to be at a meeting tonight. I'm so grateful to have made it. I had a day that could have gone a little bit crazy due to work, but I prayed to higher power this morning and connected, and I got home in time so that I could be of service. So I'm so grateful. So I chose the principle, we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. And the reason I chose that is because I didn't have freedom before I came into OA. And what freedom means is, the power to speak, to be who you are, to, there's all different, quality of state of being, just to be free of bondage. And up until 2020, I wasn't free. I was in this disease of compulsion. And it had taken over my life from a very, very young age. So as long as I remember, I've always used food. When I was 7, I would have doubled my weight. When I made my first Holy Communion, my dress had to be let out. The food had taken over teenage years, school, all the way up until, my first job. Always remembering, that I was different to other people. And I feel like I existed in the world and I actually didn't live. And there was no freedom. The food was my master. Every single thing revolved around the food. So I can tell you every single holiday I've ever gone based on where I am. I can tell you all the friends I had in school based on who had, the best treats. My head was always consumed with the crazy negotiation all the time. So if it was, if I started paying way, it would be, the what I can eat, what I cannot eat, when I can eat it, how much I have to work off, how much I have to save. It was like a budget plan in my head around the foods. I would have went to my first diet when I was in primary school, probably about 11, 12, and I remember the dishonesty sitting in on the bus with my mom going into this, dietitian, and going, I'm not, there was no way I was left to losing weight, and my mom saying, I'm just making these meals for her, but she didn't know that I was palling around with the friends that had the best treats, and telling their parents, that no, I didn't eat, and then going home and having another dinner, um, and when I think of it, like the dishonesty and deceitfulness, I wasn't a bad person being dishonest. I was a sick person. I have an illness. So there was no freedom. I lived in the shackles of this disease up until 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And when it says you're going to know a new freedom, what does that look like? When I first came into program, the new freedom in my head was I was going to get to an ideal body weight, and then everything was going to be fine. Because if I was at an ideal body weight, people wouldn't judge me, people wouldn't be rude to me, I'd get a boyfriend, my kids will behave, I'll get a promotion. I thought that once all of that happened, that I was going to be happy, but it was never about the food. It was never about the food for me. It was the unmanageability of life. So somewhere along the way, I discovered that when I eat certain foods, it gives me ease and comfort, gives me that. So, I can relate to that as in, I'm having an argument with somebody, and when I eat a certain food, it just numbs out that feeling. So it numbs out the feeling of confrontation, it numbs out the feeling of arguments, it numbs out the feeling that somebody's being hurtful to me. So I don't feel anything. I'm just totally numbed out. So that's when I say I existed. So I didn't feel, you know. So wanting to live, I had a different perception before I came into program, because it was always about the body image and the body weight, and I could lose weight, I can lose weight. I have no issue losing weight, I have an issue maintaining that, so I can go to a pain way, and I can lose weight very short, very short. I can go back within a week and have what I've lost put on with more, because my head will come out and go, oh, look what you've done. You were able to do that. Why don't you have another one? And then that will lead to, just keep picking up and keep picking up because I have this disease. So I always thought, it was just, if I just had more willpower, if I just had that willpower, I'd be okay, And coming into program, I realized that I'm powerless. I'm powerless over not only me, I'm powerless over everything else, but I thought I could manage everybody else. I thought I could get everybody else to conform. And if they all disagreed with me, and if we all had the bitching session in the same corner, and if we all gave out about the same thing, that life would be manageable. So I just see, if I was to draw on myself when I'm in disease, I'm in just shackles, I'm in the shackles of this disease. And I can talk for hours and hours about what I did in the food, and, the amount of drive-throughs I've went to, don't go. And like the car was just driving itself, and I'd be back in there and I'd be eating it. And then I'd be like, why did you do it? Having an argument with one of the kids, dropping them to school, going to the garage, just getting something, I've hundreds of those stories, but I like to talk about the solution, and I want to talk about the freedom in that promise. And the freedom for me in that promise is that I no longer have to fight the food anymore. I no longer have to fight this disease. There is a solution, and the solution is in the book, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Who would have known, that me, person in Ireland, no issue with alcohol, would have the identification with Bill, a chronic alcoholic. But I was a chronic compulsive overeater, so every time I thought that I had it licked, so when I graduated from college, when I met my kids' dads, when I had my 2 kids, when I got rid of him, whatever it was, it was going to be that was going to be the I have arrived. Um, but the freedom is that when the food was down, when I finally put the food down, the freedom came. And I kept saying to my sponsor, during the steps, when do I come out and tumble onto my knees and get that God moment of flash of light? And, she kept saying appendix 2, read the spiritual experience, and I kept reading it and reading it. And I was like, yeah, I'm reading it, but I'm still not understanding it. And the more I was going through the steps, I realized then that I had the educational variety of recovery. So over time, I was reacting different. I was pausing before I was jumping in. I no longer needed, the head was no longer consumed with, what's the next meal? When am I getting it? When it says the new freedom, for me, it's, I can get up in the morning, I pray to a power greater than me, because just to let you in on a secret, I'm not God. And I'm not it, I did think for many years that I was. But when I hand my day over to my higher power in the morning, and that's willing, I have to be very willing to let the day go, and that I'm not trying to be the driving force of anybody's decisions or anybody else's day, and when my motives are pure. So what's my motives? So when I'm, my purpose in life is to be of maximum service to others now, not what I can get. So the freedom I have now is that I can go wherever I want, without feeling judged. I can partake in conversations that doesn't belong to self-seeking. And I don't need everybody to, be all asking me how I am, because when I'm in disease, I'm the only person that's a single parent. I'm the only person that has a mortgage. I'm the only person that has a car that needs to be fixed. Every conversation needs to be about me, and the attention needs to be on me. So the freedom of not having to hold the room any longer, the freedom of being able to ask other people how they are and look them in the eye, the freedom of not having to be so consumed with the amount of food I'm getting, whether it's too much and then the whole day is consumed with tomorrow's going to be a better day, tomorrow's going to be a better day, I'm not going to pick that up, and I'm going to be good. The freedom in me head, there is no more of that battle going on. Now, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, it's not every day is like this pink cloud. There is days where, things get loud, but I have a program and I have a solution, So once I'm connecting to that higher power, once I'm doing my outreach calls with fellows, once I'm sponsoring, once I'm doing my 10 steps, my step 11, connecting with a higher power, do I owe an apology? Do I have to go back to somebody and say, that kind of comment I made today wasn't really, fair? Do I make those direct amends? That's the freedom I have. That's the freedom. And I just have it for today. Today I got up and I had to do the exact same things today that I did yesterday. Yesterday's food plan won't keep me sober today. Yesterday's 10th step won't keep me, out of my own head today. Talking to me higher power yesterday and connecting is not going to keep my freedom today. I have to do it every single day. But only just today. When I first came into program, I was like, what happens when it's Christmas? What happens when there's a big birthday? What happens? What happens? My sponsor kept saying, just try it today. Just try and do it for 24 hours. And if you can't do it for 24 hours, do it from the time you wake up to your breakfast to lunch, lunch to dinner, dinner to your head on the bed, whatever you need to keep it really simple. And that's what I need to do. I need to keep my program so simple, because I'm an addict. So I'll catastrophize anything and I will make it the hardest thing. So that's what I mean when I say the freedom. It's a freedom from that battle in my head, freedom of having to be the best, And probably about 8 years, 9 years before I ever came into program, and about when I moved out of Dublin, I decided to come off social media because my head was never able for it. I was never able to look at other people being, social media happy, if that's real or whatever. It's not my business. But I was never able for it, because it brought me back into self-seeking. It brought me back into that, I'm not good enough. I don't have all those holidays. I don't have those, profile pictures. I don't have that happy family, the compare and despair. So that's the freedom I have. The freedom is that I don't need to compare myself to other people. I don't care what anybody else has lost weight in program. All I want to know is that people are well, that people have a power greater than them that's getting them through the day, and freedom from that bondage. And it says a new happiness, and yes, a new happiness, definitely a new happiness. But I don't want to give that false of like, oh my God, it's so great, because it is, and there is a lot of happiness. But there is days, where I get up and I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody today. I want to get up and I just want to walk out onto the landing and not have to connect to a power greater than me. Why can't I? But the thing is that when I walk out into that landing without connecting, I mean, nobody's getting down the stairs without a row, because I'm in the driving seat, and I am going to, make your bed, blah, blah, blah. I'm in full of that, But the happiness for me is that, I get to laugh. I get to be me, my authentic self. So I just say to people, my disease is very serious, but I'm not. I never was a serious person, but my disease wanted me dead, end of, and that's, and the disease is killing people, it absolutely is killing people. But as I just say, it's given me a chance to live, and it's given me a chance to laugh, it gives me a chance to laugh. And, it tells us in the book, we're not a glum lot, and I definitely amn't, I definitely am not. I've been to the LA birthday party in January. Miracle, absolute miracle, a miracle to sit and see people walking by in the corridor and just waving at them like we were best friends, because we've seen everybody on Zoom, knowing that everybody is there rooting for everybody. Everybody wants people to get well. Nobody wants anybody to go home after that weekend without getting a number, finding a sponsor, encouraging to get a higher power. There was nothing like what my weekends of holidays would have been like in the past. That was just the most happiest time that I have been, was being there. Now, I was there and I was probably 800 people. I still had to go up to my room and do outreach calls. And the reason I have to do that is because it doesn't matter how many people are recovered or recovering in a room, I still have to be of service. I still was on the 10-step train. I still made those outreach calls. I still got up in the morning and prayed and meditated. I've been on more holidays than I have coming into program than I have in my whole lifetime. Because number one, getting on a plane and having the air hostess to press that button and wave and say, belt extender down the back, or being away with people and just absolutely not liking them because I was envious, I was jealous. And there are things I can admit now. I can admit when I'm jealous of somebody. It's a defect. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I just have to work on it, but I'm happy. I'm happy to say sometimes I'm jealous, because it means that I'm able to admit that. I was on holidays in March with my daughter and we went to Euro Disney, and I was so happy, so happy to sit beside her and be able to get on the rides and not feel like, oh my God, is this going to fit? Or, not worrying about the food. I packed me food. I brought me food with me. I was there for 3 days, I just put the food in the suitcase. It was Ryanair. It was okay. I made sure that it was under the requirements, but I brought me food with me. She was able to eat what she wanted. I don't have the luxury of that, So what do? I bring my food with me. No big deal. I Google places before I go. Is there something I can have? If I can't, I'll say to friends, look, meet, whatever, I'll follow you in, have coffee. You know, I tell my closest friends that I have, that I'm an addict. I'm addicted to certain foods, and once I eat them, I can't stop. So I need to avoid them. So when we're in working at somebody's birthday, they don't even look over to ask me, do I want anything? Because they accept that that's the way it is. I don't no longer have to be, I'm trying to be good, you know, all that. You know, I tell people, my family know, you know, my son constantly, he's on the spectrum. We just had a conversation there earlier, and he kept saying to me, I really wish I had a filter. I said, not as much as I wish you did, but he doesn't. So he says things as it is, you know, and he's constantly telling me, you know, how lucky he is to have me as a man, because he's only had a man the last 2.5 years. You know, he had somebody in the house, you know, that was given out and never happy. But now he has a man, you know. Now my daughter, you know, she's gone to her disco tonight. And they just know that I accept them as they are. I no longer want them to be the perfect kids. I thought that if they had immaculate rooms and cleaned their rooms and were nice, like 2 little shiny buttons going out, people thought that I was a good person. I no longer think that their reflection on how they, you know, look is that I'm a bad parent. Or if they don't go to school for a week and the school are ringing, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to think I'm so bad. And they're sick. You know, get up, get up, get out. People, blah, blah, blah. I no longer have to be like that, you know. I'm happy being me. You know, not everybody's going to like me. That's okay. You know, if there was 300 people in a room and 299 people, you know, were nodding, I'd always focus on the one that wouldn't. You know, that's just my disease. It's just always going to be. Thank you. Um, you know, that's the disease in me. I have defects, you know. My defects are there. I always say every day when I'm saying 6 and 7, you know, remove these defects. And I ask my higher power, replace them with something else, you know, replace them, you know, and if they come up, I will do a 10 step. You know, I'll share my fears. I shared a fear last night. You know, I was worried about today. I was going to work. I had to go to court for work. I was going to be late. I mightn't get to share. I'm sure I could share at the side of the road. All of this going on, you know. And when I shared and handed it over to higher power and just trusted the day would work out, you know. And I'm happy, you know, I'm happy that I get to go to work. Not because I have to, but because I can. I can get up, you know, and be the best colleague I am. You know, I can get up and be a parent. And this program has given me that, you know, it's given me a way of life. I love that the promises are there. I love all the promises. You know, and when you take time to actually read them and look at them and break them down, you know, and go back to step 8 and 9 and then read the promises again and say, are these coming true? You know, and when we read them and get that feeling of, yeah, these are coming true, that's when we know we've got that connection with a higher power. That's when we know, you know. And I'm powerless over absolutely everything, you know. And if anybody's in the room, newcomers, returning members, use it the most important people in this meeting. You know, sorry to burst anybody else's bubble, but the newcomer is the most important person, you know, because it's a newcomer coming in that, you know, we want to share this message of hope. And the book says people are at the gates of death. You know, I was up to 400 and something pounds. You know, I was on the highest medication for blood pressure. Didn't want to go. I didn't go to the doctor, you know, because if I went to the doctor, she might comment, or, you know, I'd be full of defense. But I freedom now that I can, you know, attend the GP and sit there and, you know, talk. And I actually told her about this program. You know, I told her how I've lost 150 pounds, you know, since the few years I've been there to her. So I'm happy to look after myself. I'm happy that I had to wash my hair for court. It takes me a long time to do those decisions. You know, will I do it now? Will I do it before I go to bed? Will I do it in the morning? You know, I still struggle with those things. But I'm happy I did. you know. I'm happy that I get to take that self-care. I'm happy that I get to brush my hair. I'm happy that, I get to turn up at a meeting. There's days that, yes, there's days where I struggle, and I struggle with really long weekends. Sometimes I wonder, am I, yeah, I wonder sometimes myself. I'm very routined, I love a routine, I love a plan. And I was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and come Monday, I was like, oh, for the love of God, another day, And it's not about triggers with food. For me, it can just be boredom. For me, it can just be loneliness. But I get to feel that. I no longer have to numb those feelings down by hurting me or by hurting anybody else. I don't have to act out. I don't have to be malicious. I don't have to be, I don't have to hurt anybody, and I'm happy, I'm happy I have a job that I love, that I don't know whether anybody else can identify. I love Mondays. They're my favorite day of the week. I get told that I'm a bit of a weirdo for that one. But I do, I'm happy to go into work because I enjoy it, you know. Um, so when it says we're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness, um, that's what it's done for me. It's given me a way of life. It's given me a life that I can live, happy, joyous, and free. But it's up to me to make that. It's up to me to make things happy, so I can sit around and be like, God, is another day. What I do at the weekend, And I used to sit around and wait for everybody else to invite me somewhere. Whereas now I'm able to pick up the phone and ask people, are you free this weekend? Do you fancy doing this? Do you fancy doing that? And if they say no, it's okay. Whereas if they said no when I was in disease, it was like, what did I do? Why did I not want to? Like, I didn't accept that anybody had a life or that they might have other plans. So I'm very acceptant of other people. I'm a huge one for boundaries as well. I love boundaries. They're only new. Don't know if anybody's heard of them, but I've only got to know them recently. And I'm working on them and finding that having boundaries is a protection for me. It protects me. And it also teaches people around me, of what I'll accept and what I won't accept in a loving way. But the freedom, I can't talk enough about that freedom of my, as I said, my daughter's gone to a disco and my son wanted fast food. Yeah, I got in the car and I went. Freedom. Ordered it on it, collected it, brought it home, gave it to him. Freedom. Before I'd come out, my head would be down. God forbid somebody had seen me coming out. What if they thought I was after, what if? And they'd be right, because it would have been for me. That's why I was in there. But the freedom to come out and just put that in the car, come home, hand that to my son and say, I'm going upstairs to do my meeting. That's freedom. Just those simple little things of being able to just live and not have to sit in the car going, don't open the bag, don't eat in now, all that thing going in the head. You're going to have to replace it, just being out of that debate, not having to debate anything. And when I do get into that debate, that I just slow myself down, connect to a higher power, just slow it down. So I'm really grateful to be able to be of service, and to be able to say that today I'm free and today I'm very happy. So yeah, I'm going to pass on that and allow others to do their magic or whatever happens now. So thanks for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Audrey, for sharing your passion of recovery with us. Good stuff. I'm sure as you can see by the reaction. Okay, so at this meeting, we have a question and answer session. So this is only a chance to ask questions, obviously to Audrey, but be nice. If you have a question at this meeting, it has to be posted into the chat to Georgina and she will ask them on your behalf. So get those questions in there and I'll hand over the rest of the meeting to Georgina.
Audrey, thank you so much for your amazing share. It's really inspirational, and I'm sure I speak for everyone. It was just incredible to hear about your freedom, and yeah, thank you so much. So as Alan's mentioned, we're going to take some questions now. So if anyone wants to post them into the chat, I'll read them out, and then Audrey, if it's okay with you, if you can respond, and we'll see how we go. So the first question is, have you found being open with others about being in OA beneficial to your needs? And how have you gone about this?
Yeah, for me, it was important that I did share it with people. I work in an office with ladies, and there's a lot of as you can imagine, the new phase or the new craze of diets and all that, is a lot of talk. And there's a lot of, oh, you can do this. And for me, I just wanted to set, that I'm in a program, and there's certain foods that I can't have. And I don't have sugar, white flour, whatever. And being very open has been freeing, because nobody no longer feels the need to have me to just have one, and a little bite won't hurt anybody. So there's none of kind of that. And then with friends, they would have known I was in program, because I had to make amends to them all. So through making amends to people, I explained my program. And yeah, for me, I just find the honesty works for me, and it just removed the having to get into the, I suppose, the not having certain foods. So people no longer ask, so it just made it easier for me. So hope that answered.
Thank you. The next question we have is, how long did it take for the obsession for alcoholic foods? How long did it take for that obsession with the alcoholic foods to leave you?
I don't know whether I remember as like a time frame. I do remember going through, so I came back into program in March 2020, and it was on Zoom, and I was getting a lot of Zoom meetings, plus a lot of resentment. So I was watching people and still going, yeah, nah, I don't really think that doesn't really suit me. There's a lot of work to be done. So I was doing trying to manage just 3 meals a day without a sponsor. So I had kind of stopped taking some trigger alcoholic foods at that point. But when I did get a sponsor, I was so desperate that I literally was like, whatever you say, I will do. And the withdrawals were horrific. They were bad. I had to have naps. I had headaches, really, really bad. And I would imagine, if I can remember back to the obsession, probably midway through, I would say after step 4. Around step 4, I remember it was no longer about the food at that point. I had got that connection of understanding that it was about the unmanageability of life, and why I was using food for ease and comfort. So the connection between the emotional, that part had come around step 4. Food thoughts never go for me. They can come in, not very regular. And I've no control over the first thought. I have control over the first action. So I just say, the obsession, that big obsession for me was probably around step 4. But we never rise above being human, so the thought can still come in.
Well, thank you. The next question is, could you share please more about your journey to finding a higher power?
Yeah, so basically when I came into, I would have came into program in 2015, and there was a sheet on the wall that had all the steps, and and I was like, this is not going to work. I don't practice religion. There's God mentioned here. I stayed for a little bit in program, and I could say I came out relapse, but I don't really think I was really recovered. So when I came back into program, and people were saying, find a power grade, then you find a God, for me, I think of everything has to be really simple for me. So I think of it as there's something out there bigger than me. Okay. There's something that gets me up in the morning to pray and connect, and something that keeps me from hurting myself with food. So the way I thought of it at the very start was, when I go online, I get Wi-Fi. Okay. I don't know how I get it, but I trust that I'm getting Wi-Fi. So I thought of my higher power exactly like that. I don't know how I was getting this, but I was getting it. All I had to do was, when I turn on the phone, I trust that I'm going to get online. So when I got up in the morning and was talking to a higher power, I trusted that there was something there. And I built on that, so over time now, and it's like it is a relationship. So I have to work at it. I have to work at it. I have to communicate with it. I have to love it. I have to embrace it, and I have to believe, and when I was at step 3, what I done was I done ideals of what I wanted my higher power to be. And for me, that was loving, accepting, funny, good sense of humor, patient, tolerant. And so every day, that's what I have a relationship with, is that higher power. So, and as I said, I still ask my sponsor as I was going through, when do I know? When do I know? But as I kept realizing, as I was changing, I knew that was coming through from my higher power, because I'm not a nice person, unless I have a program. So I knew that I do believe that my higher power is doing that work. So thanks.
Thank you, Audrey. Could you tell us a little bit more about your work around boundaries and how that's been helping you in your recovery?
So, oh God, boundaries. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really know. Didn't have boundaries at all. So because my self-seeking wanted me to do everything, and wanted to be the SP person, and anybody that had anything that needed to be done, big or small, I'll do it. First hand up, because I was getting a need met. So my motives weren't pure. So boundaries for me now, I have to be very clear on, what can I do? Why am I doing it? What am I looking to get out of this? So if it's work and I'm being asked to do something, if I can do it within my boundaries of having enough time, having enough workspace, the work balance, all of that. At home, I have 2 teenagers. Boundaries are going to be pushed, can I, will I, can you, all of that. And I'm very clear when I say something, as in spending, they're teenagers. So if I say, this is what I'm giving you, before I wanted them to really like me, so I would just give in, because I wanted them to think I was the cool mom, and that I was nice. And now it's like, really, what they think of me is, it's not my business. But I need to make sure that I'm being supportive and safe for them, so that they are learning. So I let you in a secret, I did do a workshop on boundaries that I attended. And if you ever see one coming up, please do it. There's a lady in OA, and she's in another fellowship, and she does it. And yes, if anybody wants to private message me, I can give you her number. But yeah, I do feel the boundaries for me is that the self-respect is there, but also that my motives. So is it my self-seeking, or is it because I want to do it, or I can do it? So I just have to be very clear on that. So, but I have to connect with my higher power before I make any decision, because I will say yes to something and then go, I haven't got the time for that. And then I have to try and go back. So I try and connect when I can. But yeah, that's just a little snippet of the boundaries.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. This is quite a long question, so I'm going to try and paraphrase it. This person's struggling with body obsession and wanting to lose weight and has an upcoming wedding as well. Any advice?
Focus on the weight and we lose the program. Focus on the program and we lose the weight. So coming from a person that, you know, was high numbers, you know, after a couple of weeks in program, I'd walk by a mirror and I'd be like, oh my God, you know, why am I not like 4 stone, you know? Because, and the disease, even, you know, it does not matter, you know, there's people anorexic, there's people bulimic, there's people over exercises. This disease is affecting people, not just from the high numbers. But for me, what I would do is, I suggest to anybody is just enjoy these occasions, you know, because when I'm in disease, I'm not enjoying it, you know. I've been at weddings, I've been bridesmaids at weddings, and I was like literally so withdrawn and so in disease that like I'd love to go back and do it all again so that I could actually be there for my friends. So I just say, you know, do what you can for the people, turn up. You know, we are addicts, you know, we will focus on, you know, the body image. But I say, you know, focus on the program, you know, focus on recovery, and just connect. And if you feel uncomfortable, step out, make an outreach call, you know, talk to us. You know, we all know what it's like. We all know what that feeling brings us to. But the thing is, we don't have to pick up the food. You know, it's not going to solve anything. So hope that helps.
Thank you. So the next question is, you gave some examples of what freedom around food looks like. Can you give some examples of what freedom in the rest of your life looks like, please?
Yeah, well, I suppose I've freedom. I'm sitting up here in my room on a meeting. That's my kids are, you know, very respectful that I'm in program, and there's a freedom in my house that I can get out to meetings. I can take my sponsees through the big book. So the freedom in the house around the fact that my kids know I'm in program, and that's part of my recovery, you know. So if I don't get freedom to do that, I can't, you know, I can't do and be of service. Freedom of being able to turn up at things, you know, being able to attend, you know, somebody saying, oh, to the party, blah blah blah, you know, freedom to just go, yeah, I'll be there, you know, because I no longer have that, oh God, that I dread. If somebody asked me to, I've missed christenings, I've missed birthdays, I've missed hen parties, you know, because I isolated, you know, and now I have the freedom to live. So I turn up for things, you know, again, if I can, and not that I'm going to people place. And the book tells us, you know, do we have a purpose here? You know, are we going to sit with a long face? You know, what are we bringing to it? You know, so I always think, what am I bringing to occasions? And freedom of work. When I'm in work, I work in child protection, and a lot of meetings go on, a lot of professionals, and I'd be sitting in a room of professionals thinking, they're looking at me physically, they're looking, you know, they're just judging me from my body. I have a freedom to walk into a room now and to be able to you know, speak and talk about my role and do whatever I do, and what they're thinking of me is not my business, you know. And that's freedom, to be able to turn up and just do the job that I'm paid to do, and yeah, just to be able to just not have the dread, you know. I just dreaded everything, I existed, you know, and I just feel that there's a freedom in being able to live one day at a time.
Thank you. Audrey, how have you developed and deepened your relationship with your higher power, God of your understanding?
Just as I said at the start, you know, it's a relationship, you know. So the longer I'm in this relationship with my higher power. It's building. Like there's more trust. At the start, I was like, I'd hand my day over and then I'd be micromanaging, taking little bits back, you know. But I have, you know, I have a trust in this higher power of mine. And strangely enough, I talk a lot to my higher power, you know, and I journal a lot. So if I, you know, if there's stuff coming up, I'll write it down, and, you know, I'll trust that higher power is going to come back, you know. And I have to be very patient, because I could sit and journal, or I can sit and talk to my higher power, and sometimes I want the results straight away, you know, and I want that message, and, you know, I want that, you know, next right thought or action, you know, as the book says. I want it straight away. But I've learned over time that when I'm patient with my higher power, you know, it does come. And it's I just see it as a relationship, you know. If I'm not working on it, and if I'm not building on it and communicating and connecting, um it's going to end. It's going to break up with me eventually. You know, so I have to keep doing what I have to do to stay connected. So
Thank you. Did you struggle to be consistent with your higher power? If so, what strategies do you use to maintain consistency?
So when I first came into program, during the pandemic, you know, there was loads of meetings and loads of kind of different things online, and my sponsor had suggested there was a meeting in Ireland. I think it's run on the Cork meeting, and it was a 7 a.m. prayer meditation, and it lasted for 50. It lasts, I should say, it's still on. It lasts for 15 minutes. So they read on awakening, third step, 7-step prayer, and a daily reader. So I constantly went to that until I got into, you know, the consistency of connecting. Wake up, connect, wake up, connect, wake up, connect. So if I don't get up early enough, or if sometimes I swim in the morning, if I don't do that, I'm in a pattern now of just getting up, and that's what I do. So that's like a routine of prayer, meditation, taking just some quiet time. You know, I try not to go on the phone. I try not to pick up the phone and look at messages before I connect. So that's the routine. At the start, I set little alarms, you know, pray, pause, pray, pause. They'd be going off on my phone until I got into habit, because it was all new. This was all new. Like, I was literally running the show. You know, I opened that director's chair and I was just a bitch, you know. So that kind of helps get into that consistency, getting up, getting a meeting in the morning, you know. And then I still, to this day, before I get into work, I do an outreach call. If anybody's on the outreach links, I'm on it before 9. You know, I have to talk to one of my peeps before I set my foot into work, to connect. So they're the things that I have to do. And so it's whatever works. If it's setting alarms, if it's having certain times that you connect, whatever worked. So the consistency for that, I just know I've got up one day and I didn't do it, and, you know, the day was a shit show, and I've never done that again. So I learned from that not to get up and try and run the show myself. So thanks for the question.
We've got another question about boundaries. Can you give any more examples of boundaries you've set, learnt about?
Oh God, boundaries. So the ones in work, I suppose I said the ones with my kids. I'm single, you know. So I've set boundaries in relation to, I don't use any like dating apps. I don't use, I just, what you see is what you get, basically, you know. I have to be very clear in who I am. You know, my higher power has me as my authentic self, and I have to really honor that. So boundaries would be that, you know, I don't try and be somebody else when I'm with certain people. My expectations of other people, is that I just have to accept. I have to accept people as they are. I don't have to try and get them to like what I like, or and I suppose boundaries in relation to like sponsees, you know, before it'd be like, yeah, it's cool, call me whenever, you know, and then I'd be off doing a 10 step going, oh my God, they're 2 hours late. And, you know, so, you know, I'm kind of like, okay, these are the times I'm free. And I will check sponsees times, and, you know, and be kind of specific and kind of trying to keep boundaries in that sense, that we're all respectful of everybody's time. If there's people that trigger me, I have boundaries around how long I spend with them. And yeah, I think that's a few more, hopefully. I will put my number in the chat, and if people can, you know, outreach and talk more about anything that I've talked about.
Lovely, thank you. The next question is, when did the self-chatter in your head stop?
Oh, did I say it stopped? No, I'm just kidding. Oh my God, when did the chat in my head stop? I would imagine, if, like, again, I can't particularly remember exactly, but I would imagine around step 10. That when I got to step 10, I found, you know, 8 and 9 for me were they were fine. You know, they were fine. And the reason they were fine is because I knew I needed to make those amends to be able to live, and to be able to recover. I had to make them. But the step 10 gave me a reminder that it says in the book, new mistakes. So when new mistakes come up, so when new things come up, I was able to work through them with a higher power. I was able to share it with a fellow. I was able to ask for my defects to be removed. So I'm not a bad person doing bad things. I'm just a sick person, you know. And when I'm not very connected or very well, you know, I might do things that, you know, isn't the best, you know, my best self. So that when I got to step 10, it was like I knew I had a daily thing that I was going to be able to do to remove my defects, to talk about my fears. So by then I think it was like the fight was over, and I love the 10 step promises as well. So yeah, I would imagine around step 10 that, but there is sometimes that little, you know, voice comes in, but I just have to make sure that my connection with my higher power is louder. You know, so.
Thank you so much, Audrey. That's all of our questions, and I think I'll hand back to Ellen now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgina, and thank you again, Audrey, so much. Incredible share, and thank you for your perseverance with those questions. They've helped so many people. Okay, thank you, Greta, for keeping us on time. So I'll now open the chat. If you'd like to share numbers for outreach, Audrey, it'd be great if you could put your number in there too for us. And if you are an absent available sponsor, please indicate this as well. So if you are new or have questions, we do have a newcomers recovery hub where you can stay at the end of the meeting, where we've got 2 lovely newcomer greeters. We've got Kara and Claire, and they're more than happy to stay at the end of the meeting to help you. So if you'd like to be added to that breakout room, if you raise your electronic hand, we'll get you added to that at the end of the session. And also this meeting does have a WhatsApp group for fellowship and outreach between meetings, and hopefully the link should be posted shortly. Why, there's a lot to take in there, just bear with us. So we'll close this meeting the same way we always close a New Freedom Big Book study, by reading the 12 promises of recovery as laid out in the Big Book, beginning on page 83, if we are painstaking, and ending if we work for them. And hopefully Audrey's ready. Have you got the book to hand?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of usefulness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you, Audrey, and thank you for showing us today how, just one of those promises really does come true. So our meetings do recur on a weekly basis, and our next meeting is scheduled for the same time on the same link next week. May your higher power bless you and keep you. Until then, just stop the recording.